how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good, I'm good. Just really cold in the studio. I think I'm gonna have to put the heating on soon.
Yeah, I turned the central heating on for the first time this week.
It's a momentous occasion. It's like, okay, we're
Yeah,
giving him.
exactly. It was good. But yeah, definitely with the clocks going back and everything, winter is
It's
setting
here.
in.
It's definitely here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, to brighten everyone's mood,
Yes.
this week we have the rainbow portrait. 1600, 1602 is the approximate date. And the artist is unknown or maybe known, we don't know.
Cool.
Would you be up for describing it?
Of course. So this is a portrait of Queen Elizabeth I. I feel I can say that because everybody is in some way familiar with the red-headed, curly-haired queen who tends to look fairly similar throughout her whole life. We may get into that, but I remember at school learning about how idealized she was in portraits. So she can be seen from, I would say, just below her waist and then up. So it's a three-quarter length portrait. She's wearing a um, silky orange gown with a lot of fabrics around, and then this large kind of, it's not oh my gosh, I don't actually, it looks almost like two big insect wings behind her head.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to describe actually what she's wearing because it just looks really sumptuous, very detailed, um, very detailed bits of fabric and patterns, a long pearl necklace, lots of pearls, and then a ruff around her neck, and then a crown again with lots of details of jewels, maybe a feather. In her right hand, she is holding what seems to be a kind of semicircle in the shape of a rainbow or arch. And then the
Mhm.
background is dark brown from this reproduction, at least. So there isn't a particularly detailed background.
Yeah. Yeah, the painting has been recently cleaned. It was
Mm.
literally like last year or the year before. But finding pictures of it post cleaned, see, it still seems to be a bit, I can't really find one. So
Interesting.
yeah, I think it does look a bit better if you see it in real life
Yeah,
now than it does in these pictures, a bit brighter.
yeah,
But yeah, most of the pictures I found online are all older than that.
yeah.
Okay, so the sources for this week's episode are Wikipedia, pages on the work and the potential artists, the Historical Association, which is history.org.uk, historyhit.com, Elizabeth I, Uncovering the Secrets of the Rainbow Portrait by Alice Loxton, hatfieldhouse.co.uk, the page on the rainbow portrait, and Court Painting in England from Tudor to Victorian Times by William Gaunt. So,
Nice.
the Rainbow Portrait is one of the most intriguing works in British art and certainly one of the most mysterious images of a monarch who used portraiture to project her power. The painting is thought to be one of the last works painted of the Queen before her death in 1603, and its creator is much debated, with multiple artists suggested, some of those being Isaac Oliver, who comes up a lot, sometimes very confidently, and sometimes he's completely absent from the discussion.
Mm.
Nicholas Hilliard, who was a miniature painter and seems fairly unlikely, but is
Hmm.
mentioned sometimes. Federico Zuccaro, who I only found mentioned once, and I don't really know anything about him. Um, the most likely candidates at the moment are being suggested to be Marcus Gerrits, the younger, or John de Critz. Um, but again, different sources, different suggestions. So it's a bit of a minefield trying to attribute someone to this.
Yeah, I love that though. It's quite mysterious.
Yeah, and it's interesting writing an episode on it because usually when I write an episode, I write about the artist and about the work. You
Yeah.
know, it's about the artist and then the work and then back to the rest of the life of the artist. And the structures has completely gone out the window this week because I
Yeah.
don't have an artist to write about. So yeah, we've gone off on all sorts of little rabbit holes, which should be fun.
That's great.
So yeah, it's been interesting looking into the work as obviously different websites attribute it to different artists, and then you'll go to that artist's site or Wikipedia page, and there's no mention of the artwork or them of being affiliated with it in any way. So definitely a mix of sources and really hard to know which are the most reliable. And there's a lot of difference of opinion and professional opinion, which is always interesting when there's a debate.
Yeah.
Um, it's also kind of mysterious because it's not known why it was made or who commissioned it, as it's made so late in her life. Um, and it then turns up at Hatfield House, which was I'll go into it, but it was basically sort of several years later. It shows up at Hatfield after her death and the completion of the portrait. So that's kind of interesting. And as I mentioned, it was extensively restored in 2023. So it did a tour. I believe it was at the Met at one point because the image I've got is from the Met.
Wow.
And then it went back, then it was restored and now it's back at Hatfield. So it's had a
Okay.
bit of a recent holiday.
Yeah,
That
nice.
was
Where is Hatfield House?
really, I would guess it's near Hatfield in Hertfordshire, but I
Hatfield.
might be very
Ah, I'm
wrong.
sorry to anyone who is from Hatfield. But when did it turn up at Hatfield House? Was it
But not
fairly
not a long
soon
time
after?
after,
Okay.
but I believe I'll get into it, but it's
Mhm.
basically it's interesting.
Yes, great.
Okay, so I'll start with the subject of
Mm.
Elizabeth the First, and then we can look into the work itself. I'll use the word subject and not sitter, as it seems kind of unlikely that she sat for this, being something like I remember about 69 or 70. And it's yeah, it doesn't seem like she's 69 in this painting.
No, I really thought when I was describing it, I was thinking, oh, this one was one of the younger ones, and then later when she was doing her idealized portraits. But no, this is very much when she was
Yeah,
basically.
supposedly one of the last ones. So you'd
Yeah.
think she'd be showing her age by now, but no, she seems to have sort of doubled down on
Yeah.
her image. The studios of Tudor artists produced images of the Queen by working from approved face patterns, which were approved drawings that she agreed with being disseminated and used,
Wow.
just to meet the demand to spread her image. In this way, her image was really tightly controlled, and this was for a number of reasons. Elizabeth was the youngest daughter of King Henry VIII, Queen of England and Ireland, the last and longest reigning Tudor monarch with no heir and no husband. With no one to pass her throne to, it put her in a vulnerable position on the international stage, and her throne was challenged. The most famous incident being the Spanish Armada in 1588. She came to the throne as a 25-year-old, and as she became older, her image and how she preferred to be portrayed changed as well. Her
Mm.
image became more of an icon or representation of which symbolized royal power, rather than some kind of insight into her appearance or personality. It was in some ways a step back from the popularity of Holbein during her father's reign, who represented people very much as they were, with sort of wrinkles and fat and scars. Beautiful works of drawings of people who feel still like they're very present on the page. Um, this sort of portraiture is for a very different purpose. Her long reign represented a period of stability for the kingdom after a lot of upheaval and changes in the national religion, with her sister converting everyone back to Catholicism and then Elizabeth going back to Protestantism. And this was the longest period of calm that there had been for a while. And so her portraits are intended to keep that sense of stability going, not contemplating her age or the end of her reign or any of that kind of like frailty that would be worrying at the time, particularly given that they're a Protestant nation surrounded by Catholic nations.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so there's far more varied images of her when she's younger, before this decision is made. Lady Elizabeth Tudor by an unknown artist in 1546 feels a lot more like a personal encounter with her and a lot more in the style of Holbein and that kind of representation. The writer William Gaunt said, the painter is unknown, but in a competently Flemish style, he depicts the daughter of Anne Boleyn as quiet and studious looking, ornament in her attire as secondary to the plainness of line that emphasized her youth. Great is the contrast with the awesome fantasy of later portraits, the pallid mask-like features and extravagance of headdresses and ruff, the padded ornateness that seemed to exclude all humanity.
Wow, that is such a good description of it. The
Yeah.
padded ornateness. That is really true. I think when I was trying to describe it, I found that a really hard one to describe because there's just so much fabric. And it is
Mm,
that paddedness. It
yeah.
feels like there are
She's a
all these
comfort
layers.
blanket of stuff.
Yeah, and and also that mask-like
Could be
face.
anyone, couldn't she? It's like
Yeah.
it's such a and I don't think it really reflects the skill of the artist. It's a choice to have her like just to stick to this very set idea of what how she should look and what her features and how her like complexion should be and everything.
Absolutely. And I suppose the fabrics, and now I'm looking at it, the more you look at these, the more the details jump out at you. And maybe the artist was able to show off more with the fabric, or that's where there's more lifelikeness
Yeah,
in a way. It's not
definitely.
the human lifelikeness, but it is, I suppose, more observational,
Yeah,
potentially,
can
of
you imagine
fabric.
trying to sort of like draw out a great portrait out of a very set face pattern?
Yeah.
You can't really, when you have like a sitter or a great photo or whatever it is, you can really pull out those details and those elements that make someone feel like they're very present. You don't have that. You just have this like very set,
Mm,
drawing of her face that you have to use. And
yeah.
yeah, it is like someone sort of slapped a mask into that portrait. The rest of
Yeah.
it's so detailed and has such depth, and then there's this sort of almost kind of quite flat face in the middle of it, which
Yeah.
is so odd because it's the bit that you're drawn to most in a portrait, and it's just not quite there.
And that and everything does point to her face as well, I think.
Mm,
Um it's the what like the lightest bit of the portrait. It's got everything pointing, the ruffs and the layers all draw your eye towards the face.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean it makes total sense why she couldn't there are written sources that describe how much she aged.
yes.
And I remember learning that at school.
Yeah,
And
I think
then,
I've got oh yeah, it's right here.
yeah.
It's my next point. So these beautiful later works are generally accepted to be quite far from reality, as we said. And
hmm
in fact, her skin had been scarred by smallpox in 1562, leaving her half bald and dependent on wigs and cosmetics. Also, her love of sweets and fear of the dentist contributed to severe tooth decay and loss to such an extent that foreign ambassadors had a really hard time understanding her.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also am surprised that they had dentists, but
I
I'm
know, I
sure,
thought that. I thought they surely they just had someone who popped round and ripped a tooth out. That'd be
yeah.
about it, really.
But then maybe the Queen would have a dentist. That does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it give you a little wooden tooth or something?
Yeah. Well, when did they have there was a phase. I don't know if this was too early. This is probably too early in Tudor times, but there was a phase of a present to newly married women would be to have all of your teeth removed so that you could have fake teeth for the
Oh,
rest of your
yes.
life.
That
Yeah.
is
Is that,
so
but with
cool.
that, we're talking 19th century by then, I think.
It's like the turkey teeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So not a good look for her and
No.
clearly doubling down on
More
the
reasons to be painted
restrictions
like
of how
this.
you depict me is key. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I just can't get over the fact that she's 69 in this. It's like, is she's not even in this, is she? Like,
She's
it's like
not, no.
3-year-old her is in this. Like, the idea that we're looking at a portrait of a 69-year-old is just like, no, it's a painting of her when she's 20, painted when she was 69. That's like the best
Yeah,
way
and
to
not
do
even when she's 20. It's like now it's the idea of
it. Because she
her.
doesn't even look like the portraits of her when she's young. She just
Mm,
looks like this sort of mask, I
yeah.
guess. But anyway, so the rainbow portrait presents a beautiful woman in the flower of youth
Yes.
with graceful features and unblemished skin. And in reality, Elizabeth was, as we said, almost 70 when it was created in 1600. And apart from the obvious and extreme flattery, the message was that of the immortal queen, an ageless and endless monarch. What gives the work its name is the rainbow in the queen's right hand, which I think in this picture is pretty faded, I would assume. I would
Yeah.
assume it was a rainbow rather than a sort of grey arch that looks kind of like glass rather than
Okay, that makes more
this.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And beside it is inscribed a Latin motto, non sine sole iris, meaning no rainbow without the sun.
Okay.
There are a couple of poets from the time that the phrase could be a nod to. John Davis and his Hymns to Astrea, or Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen. The implication that Elizabeth is the sun with her divine light creating the rainbow that is her nation. Building on the idea of Elizabeth as a mythical and goddess-like figure, her translucent veil and diaphanous lacy collar, coupled with her apparent agelessness, do give the appearance of someone otherworldly. She also has, as you mentioned, this fine gauze fabric wired at the edges, giving her the appearance of having wings behind her head, which must have looked very impressive when stood still. But can you imagine trying to get through a doorway or into a carriage with these massive wings?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what they were. They are
Yeah, well,
wings, but
I in Lucy Worsley we trust, and she described them as wings, so I'm going with wings.
okay.
Ugh. Okay,
Yeah.
so she's wearing this bright orange cloak, which you mentioned, and it has dabs of gold leaf applied to it, which give it like a really beautiful glow. And the
Mm.
cloak is decorated with images of eyes and ears.
Okay, I thought, was I going mad looking at this?
No, no, not at all.
They're really amazing.
I love it. I love this stuff. It's so cool. It's like when you see the I don't know which saint it is, but the female saint who's always holding like two eyes in her hand.
Oh,
You might
Saint
know it.
Lucy.
There you go. I knew you'd know who it was.
Saint Lucy is amazing. She has two eyes on a tray, but then this is eyes all over, eyes and ears.
Eyes and ears, which is sort of disturbing.
Can I guess what the symbolism is of it?
Go for it.
Okay, is it that she is all eyes and ears over the nation? She
Well,
knows
I'm guessing you
everything.
mean like she's really like omnipresent and omnipotent
Yeah,
and all that, rather
she
than
sees
like
all.
yes, yeah, yeah. That's one interpretation.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Oh, I put here that I think it's very Schiaparelli, which if you're into your fashion, you'll know what that means.
I am not, clearly.
Well, he's a fashion designer and he always puts like eyes, ears, all sorts of things on bags and clothes and things. It's very cool.
That's
I
so
enjoy.
cool.
Often
And
gold as well, which gives it that kind of hint.
but has he based that on this
Well, I think
portrait?
actually Schiaparelli originally woman designer, Elsa
Oh
Schiaparelli,
gosh,
and then I think
sorry.
now it's run by Daniel someone or other. I don't know. Just
Okay.
trying to give credit where it's due, but clearly clueless. Okay, right. Where was I? All right. So obviously the suggestion is that Elizabeth is all-seeing and all-hearing, which could relate to the otherworldliness
Mm.
in the picture, but a more sinister interpretation could be a reference to her very sophisticated network of spies that she relied on to maintain and manipulate power.
Whoa.
This helped protect her from assassination plots and threats from abroad, especially Catholic powers such as Spain. Many rebellions, plots and conspiracies had been crushed or thwarted throughout her life. And a lot of that was made possible by her spy master, Francis Walsingham.
Oh, I
You've
remember
heard of
this
him.
name. I
Yeah, it's
remember
one of those
this
names that comes
name.
back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Walsingham tracked down Catholic priests in England and supposed conspirators by conspirators by employing informers and intercepting correspondence. He had a wide network of staff in England, which included cryptographers and experts in forgery, breaking codes, and repairing seals on letters without detection. The snake creature that slides down Elizabeth's left sleeve also serves to emphasize the point, and it's suggested it represents her cunning and wisdom. In its mouth is a heart jewel, which would have suggested that she rules with both her head and her heart. So,
Where is the heart? Oh yeah, the heart jewel. God.
yeah. So it's quite it's definitely a little sinister in its sort of appreciation of her. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I want to be appreciated in that manner, but to
Yeah.
each their own.
I
Yeah.
maybe it was that viewers could you could see it as ornament and as just all eyes and ears and things like that. And then if you knew more,
Mm,
you could see it as an indication of her power. But
yeah.
maybe because, we're just looking at it at the start as just this really ornate, mesmerizing painting. And I imagine, well, who was seeing this painting? That's also a question.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
That comes that back down to like who commissioned it and what its purpose was, I
Mm,
guess. Um, so going on to other images of Elizabeth,
mm,
one of the most enduring images of Elizabeth, which I'm sure you know, is that of the Virgin Queen.
yeah.
And it could be seen as unusual that she perpetuated that idea, given that she had no heir and no spouse, and it was a massive disadvantage to her and her legacy. It made her unable to pass on the stability that she'd brought to the country after she would pass away. It had been suggested that the eradication of Catholicism and destruction of icons of the Virgin Mary left her reign with a sort of open space for the cult of the Virgin, which she kind of took on herself.
Right.
Like there's not a lot of people wandering around just looking for a virgin to worship.
Yeah.
Any virgin will do.
It's interesting though, because it is a kind of absorption of Catholicism of the cult of the Virgin
Mm,
and but
yeah.
translated onto the head of state. I mean, it makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, because why else would you want to emphasize that fact, which is like such a
Mm,
seen as such a negative?
mm.
Um,
But when was the not the rainbow portrait. What's this portrait? Oh, the Virgin Queen one. When was that commissioned and painted? Was that much earlier?
I don't know that I'm referring to a specific one.
Oh, right. Okay. I was thinking of the one where she's in all in white.
Oh, no, I will come to that.
Oh, yeah.
But that one's not actually about her being a virgin.
Because I remember
They're all
learning
about her
about,
being a virgin in some
yeah,
way.
it's funny because I wonder if it came at a certain stage when she'd kind of decided I'm not going to get married because there were talks of her getting married, weren't there, at
Yeah.
some point?
And I doubt in that day and age that you'd be born and grow up with the assumption that you weren't going to get married.
Exactly. So maybe they came a little bit later. But yeah, it certainly came to define her, didn't it?
Yeah,
Even now when it's really the fact that she was on her own and she was this unmarried monarch.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the Virgin Queen symbolism is referenced in this portrait as well, which comes through with the pearls, which allude to purity. And
Hmm.
the knotted necklace apparently suggests virginity. I don't know how. My source did not explain how knotted necklaces suggest virginity, but anyone out there wants to wants to imply, then knot your necklace.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird. And apparently her pale, glowing face with the lead white is, the youthful innocence and
Hmm.
virginity idea again. So if we get to the attribution, um, which is the complex issue. So Isaac Oliver comes up quite a lot as a likely candidate. But again, as I said, on his Wikipedia page and web pages about him, it's not mentioned. So it's just certain places where it's confidently mentioned. I think people like a sort of nice, neat
Yeah.
answer. So some sources quite confidently mention it. And he's best known as a miniature painter. And he
Mhm.
also um, he learned under Holbein to paint miniatures, and then inspired a long tradition of miniature painting in England. Um, one of his pupils, Nicholas Hilliard, I believe. What am I doing? Hilliard. Okay, so Hilliard served as the miniature painting to Elizabeth I, and his chief pupil was Isaac. So it went
Oh,
Holbein,
okay.
Hilliard, Isaac.
Okay.
My point was that Isaac Oliver only really rose to prominence at the end of Elizabeth I's reign and was actually a more well-known painter under James I. So it seems
Oh, okay.
unlikely that this miniature painter who was just learning their craft would be painting a three-quarter length of the Queen at that
Yes.
point. Yeah, and it also seemed unlikely that Hilliard would because he was already employed as her miniature painter. So
Mm,
why would he be painting this portrait that's not even in her possession at the
mm,
end of her life?
yeah.
And when you look at Oliver's miniature paintings, they don't seem very similar stylistically to
Hmm.
what we're looking at. I mean, yeah, people have like breadth, of course.
Yeah.
You've got to like leave space for breadth. But yeah, there's like, some of the later miniatures perhaps, but it's not a theory that I would get behind personally, but
Mm.
everyone their own.
And how big is the rainbow portrait?
Oh, I wrote this down and then I like confused myself because it was like where I'd found it, it said it was like a half size three-quarter length or something. But then
Okay.
in the pictures on Hatfield House, it looks quite big. It doesn't
I was
look
going to say,
massive, but it looks
y-
big.
yeah, like so, I was just thinking about if it was a sort of really small one, then it
No, it
seems.
it looks like a three-quarter size three-quarter length.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's full size. I don't really know. I got a bit baffled by the description of its size.
Hmm.
Um,
But you're not convinced by the Isaac Oliver one?
I'm not, but mostly because I was looking at someone else that was suggested, which is Marcus Gerrits, the younger, who had a track record already of having painted the Queen
Hmm.
large scale. He was the painter of the Ditchley portrait, which is the one I
Oh,
sent you
that's
in
the one I
video.
mentioned, yeah,
Yeah, when
where
she's in,
she's on a
in white.
and on a globe
Yeah,
or
it's
a
one of
map.
the most recognizable pictures of her.
Mm.
The royal accounts for 1596 to 98 include payments for decorative work to him. And
Mm.
another portrait of Elizabeth by him is in the Trinity College collection in Cambridge. So there's a lot more plausibility that he may have painted the rainbow portrait to me. It's not beyond his prior experience.
Mm.
Um, but interestingly, slight spanner in the works is that she looks older in the Ditchley portrait of 1592 than she does in this one of 1600, which is 8 years later.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's like, a decree that's gone out or something, but that seems a bit odd that he'd paint her older and then younger.
Could it be that it was a doubling down though of
Hey,
as she
yeah,
got older, it got more idealized?
yeah, she did double down.
She doubled.
So that could be an explanation. And there was a portrait, again, the one that I sent you, a portrait of an unknown lady, which is really, really impressive. And that one led me to believe that he could have been the author of today's work because it just had a presence to it, kind of similarly to the rainbow portrait has a presence to it. Um,
Yeah.
mostly just it was the I'm not an expert and I'm not gunning for anyone in particular, but that was just like, okay, well, this is a line I can see and understand. If someone told me that there wasn't any doubt, then I wouldn't doubt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Whereas with Isaac Oliver, there is just quite a lot of question marks
Yeah,
around him.
it just seems to confuse me
Yeah.
why that's come up.
Hmm.
But yeah, as I said, we'll never know, and we don't know, and there's other artists in the mix as well, and maybe someday they'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
right now, it's like pick your own horse.
Yeah. And I feel like doing the podcast, you can just like pick your horse and then, see what
Exactly.
happens.
I'll probably be dead before they figure it out, so it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also it makes this portrait really interesting because it's so idealized that it could be any painter in different ways. Like you
Yeah,
can make arguments for lots of painters, and I feel like that's such a different way of understanding a painting, as you said
yeah.
at the beginning. Like
Because
it
to
kind of
any
takes
extent,
you
any of
away.
those artists would have had to bend over backwards to make this special, surreal image of her that's like not really. maybe not the way they would usually work.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about like even with Renaissance painters where it would have been, oh, patrons would have been wanting a Raphael or a Michelangelo, and it could have been also in the style of, but there was
Mm.
really, and then when a monarch comes in and lays out all of these restrictions of how you can paint
Yeah,
her, it becomes so much less about the artist. I mean, I'm sure there is obviously like, the sumptuousness of the clothing and the overall composition and things like that will have been of the time, but it's
yeah,
really a typical like monarch has the final say.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the rainbow portrait is currently hanging back at Hatfield House in Hertfordshire. Oh, we were right. There we go. The house was built in 1485 by the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was Henry VII's minister. However, in 1538, Henry VIII acquired the royal palace of Hatfield House, and it was the childhood home of Elizabeth I and her brother Edward VI.
Oh, okay.
According to the history of the house. It was here, according to the history of the house, she says, I've said
Yes.
it wrong. It
Yeah.
was here in the gardens that Elizabeth learned that she was going to be Queen of England. So that's a piece of like house law, is that happened
Mm.
in the gardens.
And there's a scene of that in one of the films about Queen Elizabeth because I
Oh my.
remember watching it.
Ah. So supposedly in 1588, Elizabeth was sitting under an oak tree, 1558, sorry, under an oak tree in the park where she learned her succession to the throne. So later, when Elizabeth I's successor, James I, became King of England, he gave the house to his chief minister, Robert Cecil, the first Earl of Salisbury, who tore the palace down and built the new current house, which is on the site.
No.
As a result, it's believed that Robert Cecil was the first owner of the rainbow portrait. Since the Cecil family was indebted to the Queen, perhaps this portrait was made in her honour and ended up in the house in some way. But the dates that suggested it was painted while she was still alive, and
Yeah.
they didn't. The house was redone after her death,
Mm.
and it being given to the Cecil family. So there's a gap in between where they may have acquired the portrait, but there's still some mystery about why, who made it, why.
Mm.
Maybe the Cecils had already commissioned it because they were already affiliated with that queen as well. And then it ended up at Hatfield because of her
Yeah.
history with Hatfield. I don't know.
But it wasn't, could it also have been that the royal court commissioned it as well? Or yeah, and
Yeah,
then maybe it was gifted but
yeah.
yeah,
So there's
very
sort of possible reasons.
mm.
Um, Back to Elizabeth around the time of this portrait. So after the loss of several close friends and family members in March of 1603, Elizabeth fell sick and remained in a settled but unremovable melancholy. It was said that she would sit motionless on a cushion for hours on end. And when Robert Cecil, so this is their closeness, told her
Uh-huh.
that she must go to bed, she snapped, "Must is not a word to use with princes, little man."
Oh, put him in his place.
Yeah. So she died on the 24th of March, 1603, aged 69. Um, Apparently between 2 and 3 in the morning, if anyone was wondering.
Okay.
And a few hours later, Cecil and the council set in motion their plans to put James I, King of Scotland, on the English throne. Because she famously wouldn't name a successor, so they had to do all this behind her back. Um, Apparently there was inferences that she would make, but she just would not accept the idea that she wasn't going to live forever.
Yeah, she'd accepted the rainbow portrait story version of the story, which is
Yeah,
Eternal Queen.
yeah, and that's kind of reflected in some of the things I was reading about her and her like sort of like people that she would have in court who weren't very good but were like massive flatterers and went out and like lost battles and betrayed her, but they were, people who told her she was beautiful and young and all these kinds of things. So
Wow.
that was another sort of side project that I went off down.
Yeah, that is fun. The characters around her were it reads quite like, well, that's why they made films about it and there are books and everything because they are really characters, aren't they?
Yeah, and you could go off on all sorts of tangents looking at Tudor portraits, definitely, because there's so much
Yeah.
story.
I think she had a Scottish man living in, he was at court and he was one of the flatterers and stuff. And apparently he was called Esme because that was a unisex name at the time, which
Oh, that's
I
cool.
remember finding that out and being very pleased.
We like that.
Yeah.
The more unisex names, the better.
Yes. Although I'm not sure when Esme is going to become a unisex name again.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us this week. We can never be 100% sure of the accuracy of historical events. However, the information we are providing is based on our own research. If there's a painting you'd like to hear us discuss, please let us know on social media. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe for weekly episodes.